Yay, we're here.
We're here. Hello, hello.
Hi, Lynn. Thank you for doing this. I'm so excited. I am excited for this for Robert F. Kennedy Jr. I'm excited that we're doing this specifically because I think it has so much significance because I feel like everything that Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is bringing in is tied to a whole lineage of I would say almost it's wrong to say royal presidency, but there's something very regal about what they have always brought to the I would say the whole leadership of the country, which is the leading with the heart, and that's what John F. Kennedy was famous for. He was able to reach through, connect connect through his heart, connect to the people's hearts. And I was reading up on statistics that there's never been a name connected to a president that was so often given to children, which other than Kennedy. So Kennedy was a name that was in a lot in the black community as well. So that name was given to a lot of children. The name Kennedy, and I didn't know that. And he was so honored and revered and loved, and it's almost like I could feel, yeah, I could, maybe we'll just introduce ourselves first, but I just like my whole, like I want to, I want to kind of like shout out that he's what I feel, but I can't even put it into words because I'm just feeling it. And I think it's really rare. You know, the way you're like similar to you, you meet the love of your life, it's rare. It's a similar feeling of this is rare. It's like there was only one John F. Kennedy in the lifetime of the people, until he, he died. And now I have a feeling like for these times, it's almost like he's back. It's not John, but it's somehow that energies is that frequency. I can feel it. Maybe even it's maybe even part of what they felt back then. But there was a reason why the whole country just loved him. They just loved him, And when did we have that last? I don't know. Not being angry with a president or like aligned with a president, but real love, like if like you'd be and have respect and appreciation for a father you love, that kind of love. You know what I mean? And I was thinking about if you'd want if you'd want to look at a president um, as a father figure for the nation, like that has that kind of standing, that you respect and you appreciate and you feel safe with, and he is representing the rights of the people, and he has his heart is in the right place. That kind of a standing, right? Um, and I was thinking, if you think of any of the presidents, and you're like, I bet that would be a good father figure. Who would you say that about? And I think that's a really important thing is like if you think of any of the presidents we've had in the past decades and you look at the candidates right now, or a mother figure like Marianne Williamson, who's a candidate, right? But you're like, would that be a good mother figure? Would that be a good father figure? It's an important question, not because they should be a parent, but because it's the responsibility they hold and the I think that do you think that they have your best intention at heart, not yours as a person? We as we are the nation, we're citizens, but in some way there is a hierarchy. Our president carries more responsibility for the decisions he makes than I do, so there is a hierarchy. And so if I'm like, I don't trust him, we have a problem. We're, yeah. Anyways, um, Lynn, why don't you introduce yourself?
Thank you, Sophia. So glad to be here with you today. My name is Lynn Lockner, and I live in Alaska. I am first and foremost a mother of two amazing starseed boys, and I am a budding astrologer and someone who is passionate about what is going on in the world. I really woke up around 2020. And right when things started to shut down and kind of go berserk, I had really been delving into astrology, and so I've been. It's like these times have forced me to delve deeper into the astrological elements that are at play, and then delve into the history of so many pieces and parts of what's going on right now through the lens of astrology. And so the reason that we're coming together today is to look at the astrological elements that are bringing Robert F. Kennedy Jr. to the forefront today. And there are no coincidences, as we know, as we've learned in our lives and just in these times. So I want to look at his name, actually. I think it's really
Oh,
interesting what
cool.
you just said, because our name ties in with our astrological makeup. It also ties in with the day that we were born. It's a beautiful marriage of meaning and significance. And I know you will have some input with this because you know German. Um,
Oh, was not
and
expecting anything German in here.
I know, but the name Robert actually goes back to
That's a very
Germany.
common name, actually, in German. It's true. Hobart.
Yes, yes. It's an old German name that means bright fame. It's taken from the old German name Radbert. The name is made up of two elements: Rad, Hrod, which means fame, and Berat.
Can you spell that?
Yes, Hrod.
Oh, wow.
Almost like Herod, but without the E. And then Berat, Beraht, which means bright. The name was introduced to the people of England by the Normans in the Middle Ages. So I think it's really interesting. I think it's really interesting that that's his name and that was his father's name. And he loved his father. And his father was just a prominent figure in his life as a father, as a leader. Um, his mother and father brought he and his, what was it, 11 siblings? He has 11 siblings. He's the third of
11, yes.
11.
I think so.
And cousins and, that huge
Yeah,
family.
huge family.
Yeah. They were like, I've heard a lot of interviews now because I just love to hear him speak. He's so interesting and he's so just who he is. He's not a political figure that stands apart. He shares stories and uh, recollections of his childhood that are very relatable. But he said we only had one conversation at dinner time. We all participated. We on Sunday dinners we would come together. We had to have a book report. They always were studying a biography of someone, a piece of poetry. So they were brought up to participate, to think intelligently, to take action, to explore ideas together as a family. He said, I didn't go to kindergarten or primary school. My mother took me to the court cases where my father was trying
Yes.
to
Yep.
like prosecute the mafia. And that was his grade school upbringing. That was
Wow. Well, that
primary
serves him
education.
well.
Yeah, yeah. But he was brought up without any anything hidden from view. It was like we're not doing anything wrong. We're trying to bring forth goodness in this world, and we're going to share it with all of you. There are going to be no secrets from you. Even
Bringing light to the dark.
yes, yes. Uh, Even I think it was Khrushchev that Robert Kennedy Sr. was like really good friends with, because Khrushchev had been, I think he'd been in the battle of, oh, it was one of the worst battles with Stalin. He was literally, I mean, Stalin was just trying to like get him out. Um, And he knew that there were some mysterious forces within the industrial military industrial complex. This is Khrushchev, that were at play to keep us in war. And Robert Kennedy had the same knowledge of this. So they became friends and they exchanged information. And again, the family was all aware of this. There was a KGB agent that they knew was a KGB agent. Like I think um, the the M16, what is it called? Those famous movies. No, 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 it's not Batman. Anyway, they knew that there were these uh, really top secret investigative like people out there that were doing their own work. Anyway, point being, he came from a common place, and a place of just loving the what his father did, what his family did, what his uncle did. He was shown all of it, but from a very common place. I think one of the most prominent memories he has is going to Arlington Cemetery and riding the train through all these different areas of the U.S. to get there, and hearing at the train stations people singing "Glory, Glory, Hallelujah," the
Wow.
revolutionary song, because they knew his father was that man.
Yeah.
I know, but even like climbing the hill up to Arlington Cemetery for his father's funeral, he had people reaching out. He had, what was it? I think Bobby Kennedy, but also Martin Luther King had really emphasized the poor man and said, when the poor man is truly represented and um, held up, this world will change. And I'm not sure if it was Martin Luther King or who was it
It was,
that
it was,
said,
he played a huge significant role. It was also, Bobby was talking about Martin Luther King and then also his father in the speech in Boston, and he was saying how he remembered two things stood out to me. One was that he said a good president, a good leader will well, first of all, make sure we don't have wars, but will end wars. Um, and the other thing is, and how impressed he was with how his uncle was able to reach the hearts of the people and speak to something divine within the people that opened them up and activated them to um, I think really that touching of the heart aspect was um, what made him understand what and how to connect to people, not through anger, not through the frustration, not through the negativity, but what will, how, and what will open the hearts of the people so that we all collectively become a better uh, community, a better country. And in that way, it's activating it's touching, but also activating the good within us and then highlighting that. It's like for acting from which place do we want to act from? Like, are we going to act from our heart, and or are we going to act from our anger and from the, judgment? And that was something I'm like, haven't heard a president speak like that. He's not a president, but I haven't heard a politician speak like that in a really long time. I don't ever remember anybody speaking like that. Um, except for actually Marianne Williamson, who was speaking very very much about, but she's also I would say a therapist. Um, she knows how to word things in a way. I thought that was very touching as well. But that's a whole different story. It has nothing to do with what we're doing today. But just in connection with politicians. Um, but I was just really touched by that. So what you were saying was that the one thing was with the heart, and then the other thing, just with how he saw his uncle and how what a what an impact that had on him. And then he
yeah,
lost him at 10, right?
yeah,
He lost his uncle at 10.
yeah. And that interestingly enough is in his chart.
Really?
It's, yep, it's all in his chart. His father too. It's all It's all there.
Let's
It's
let's
what's that?
let's talk a little bit about the significance of astrology and presidents in general, because it's ingrained in our country, right? It's part
Yes.
of our blueprint
Yes.
and our
Yes. The United States is rumored to be the Masonic experiment because the whole foundation of our country was based on Freemasons organization and getting together. And I think there were good Freemasons, and I think there were Freemasons that were
I agree.
turned. But
Hijacked, like most of the goodness in our world has been used, infiltrated, or not most of the goodness. It's not a good way to put it, but a lot of good institutions, religions have just been instrumentalized. Let's put it that way.
yes, yep, yep. Well, so much of what sacred geometry points to is the unseen. And what the dark forces have done is to take the unseen and put it into physical reality through a personified dark intention. So they take something that is precious and is untouchable, and through word, deed, and seance, they bring it into physical reality. So there is a way to manipulate physical reality to then access the unseen. And then there's a way to bring the unseen into physical reality. So there's two different ways to work with sacred geometry, but it was always kept from the common man. Although there were people that tried to bring it to the fore for people to see, like Leonardo da Vinci, Leonardo Fibonacci, um, and this was all around the 1200s, I believe, which was one of the last times that Pluto was in Aquarius, which is really interesting. Um, okay, so, but sacred geometry is truly what astrology is. And everything has come from that. The tarot, um, all practices that we have come from sacred geometry. Because it is in our body, we have the sacred proportion or the divine proportion, which is what Kepler talked about, um,
The golden
which
ratio.
was one of the most powerful ratios. Uh, it's the ratio from your, it's all over our body. We have the divine proportion. The female curves are very much the divine proportion. Flowers, um, most of the medicinal flowers have a five-pointed star. uh, Pretty much everything that is a five-pointed star or has 5 points is pointing to the unseen and the unknown. And so they have inverted that, like Venus. Venus is the Venus in her pattern of forward forward retrograde. She makes a five-pointed star, and when she's in the when she's above the equator, when she's above the ecliptic, we call her Venus. When she's below, we call her Lucifer. She is the light bearer. And so she's one of the things that they have inverted. So we have this beautiful evening star, but when she goes below the ecliptic, which she does every year for 6 months, unless she's retrograde, that's when she goes into her Lucifer phase. Lucifer simply means the light bearer. It's not a bad thing, but again, they have imprinted upon us this negative impression of what Venus is. Um, but almost every single president in the United States was a Freemason. You can look all of it up. Washington was um, a huge Freemason. Benjamin Franklin, Thomas Jefferson, Andrew Jackson, um, Henry or Truman, who actually renovated the White House and dug it up in the 1940s. He was a grand master Freemason of Missouri. So, and you can look up all of these people. I'm not a gatekeeper here, and I'm not.
Oh, it's all out there. You can, yeah, yeah,
It is,
yeah.
it is. But they all had to be trained, and Freemasons are trained in this occulted knowledge, or you could call it Hermetic knowledge. Hermes Trismegistus is what they named, is what Mercury is named after, and there's two sides to that as well, or you could call it Thoth. Um, but it all goes back to astrology. And all the proportions are divine proportions. Everything that is constructed in DC, as well as New York City, which was the original location of our government and the US Congress, everything is laid out with sacred geometry. So the reason we want to look at with curiosity and not trying to predict anything um, or even spell anything out, but just look with curiosity and see what confirmation we can find of Kennedy, his role in what's going on in the world right now, the significance of his speech last week, um, his life's work, uh, his father, his uncle. We can see that all in his chart. And we also see the other thing with sacred geometry is it's music. I mean, Mozart, Bach, Beethoven, they were all Freemasons. And Freemasons all study astrology because that is the root of all sciences. It is the holy science. Um, so when you're listening to that music that just moves you and stirs you and also calms you down and grounds you, um, there are divine proportions in that, and it resonates with your body, with the divine proportions in your body. When you look upon artwork from Leonardo da Vinci, or you walk into a cathedral that is also displaying sacred geometry everywhere. Everything is created with intention. It resonates in a certain way because that is what you are made of. And that's a secret they wanted to keep from us, unfortunately. And
It's beautiful how it's being uncovered. I was just a quick interruption. I was looking at something recently that I saw, which was was it Da Vinci's? No, not Da Vinci. Leonardo da Vinci. God, yes, it's the circle with the man, that's
yes,
standing straight. Yeah. And so um, I forgot what his name was. He placed, I don't know why he did it, but he placed the Metatron's cube over the picture and it's exact in proportion. And then
yes.
he discovered some other very interesting things. And so I made this extremely interesting discovery for myself because I hadn't seen it anywhere where I thought, okay, Metatron cube, and then I was aware that Washington D.C. is covered in sacred geometry, and I'm like, I'm going to go look for sacred geometry. I was aware of the Metatron cube is also has a cube, so when you look at the Metatron cube, it has. I should go get it. I have it in wood. You can see in 2D there's a formation of the cube, but it's the outline of a 3D cube. And when you train your brain, there's a certain practice. It's called a transformational shifting tool. And so when you look at the cube and you look at it in form of a 3D, like if you would draw a 3D cube, that's basically the formation of it. And so you can use it as a transformational shifting tool. And I was like, okay, I'm going to go look at this on YouTube. And lo and behold, I find information on sacred geometry and the Metatron cube overlaying Washington, D.C. And I can see in the middle of the Metatron cube is the White House. And the buildings that are put exactly in the positions of the Metatron cube. And I'm like, what is going on? And I had this epiphany going off, like, is Washington D.C. a shifting tool? I don't know. I was just like, what? Wow. So it's like this awakening to all of the things that were withheld from us. But the cool thing is it's all out there now. If you don't know that, if you don't know about something, you won't know to look for it. Even if it's right in front of you, you won't even see it because your awareness is not pointed to that.
Right.
Um, and so I find it so remarkable that we have all these symbols are out there. We have we have an immense source of tools at our disposal. We, the citizens, actually hold the power. That's what the Constitution says, right?
Mm,
It's there for us. It's our God-given rights. The government is there to protect those rights,
right, right.
right? And so I mean, leading into what you're going to talk about with Robert F. Kennedy Jr., this is not excluding anybody else. This is not about him versus somebody else or anything. This is just about looking into what information can we find on him and get a better understanding for who he is, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. Uh, Also, DC was built on a literal swamp. It came cheaply, and they had to prepare the land and get rid of the water, but it literally was created on a swamp. Um, and we have astrologically right now we have what's called the South Node. The nodes that the moon crosses paths with the sun, and um, in Latin, node is called knot. So it's like the knot that the sun and the moon make when they cross. And every year and a half, those nodes shift. They go backwards on the ecliptic. The planets move forward. The South Node currently, which is it's North Node is kind of like the destiny that we're moving toward. South Node is like the destiny that we're moving away from. So collectively, right now, our South Node, the destiny that we're moving away from, is in DC. Collectively for the United States, the swamp is what we are literally cleaning out. um, it's
Draining the swamp.
draining the
Is that
swamp.
a coincidence?
No coincidences, right? But it is. It's miraculous, and uh, the whole formation of DC, as well as the White House, that was part of Harry Truman's renovation. Was on the southeast corner. They did a little. I don't know what you'd call it. uh, George Washington led them through a ceremony, uh, a ritual. It was a ritual. It was a Freemasonic ritual, and it involved pouring corn, oil, and wine over this cornerstone that went on the southeast corner of the White House, and presumably it's still there. He says that he found it, or they looked and they didn't find anything, but he found these other stones that had Freemason symbols on them that he sent to everybody in the United States, everybody that was part of his cabinet, which is really kind of shady and weird. Um,
Yeah.
so there's no denying that astrology plays into our roots as well as our current life. It plays into the structures that were built. It plays into the government that was built. It plays into the leadership that we've had. And so it's a very important piece of looking at the current state of affairs. And in my opinion, it's such a beautiful lens to look at because it takes us out of the 3D world. In order to look at astrology, you have to step back and look through a higher lens. So immediately, a lot of the BS of the 3D world drops away. He said, she said, blah, 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 blue. You can find this amazing meaning and significance and even like harmonics when you step back and look from a larger perspective. So as we do that, you're going to be blown away by what you see, by the significance of what happened last week. I'm going to share my screen with you. Okay. Wait, that's not the one I want. Here we go. Okay. So here we have the birth chart of Robert Francis Kennedy Jr. And that is actually the time of his speech last week. That's the one we're looking at right there. That's the event
Yeah,
in his
right,
speech.
the 19th of April.
Yes, yes.
Wow.
So this is his birth chart, and there's lots of ways um, to pull up his birth chart. We actually couldn't find, where did my Robert? That's just his announcement, but I wanted his. Here we go. Here we go. It moved it for me. Okay, so we're going with the 12 o'clock p.m. birth time, um, because we were not able to find anything actually confirming his birth time. Typically, when you don't have a birth time, most astrologers will just go with 12 p.m. because it gives you a general idea of where the planets were. The most quickly moving planet is the moon. It changes signs every 2.5 days. But this still gives us an idea that it was, he had a Cancer moon, or his moon was in Cancer, at 12 p.m. at least on the 17th of January 1954. He was born on a Sunday, which again ties in with his name. Uh, Bright, shiny leader. He is ruled by the sun. He is here. So in astrology, the sign of Leo is where the sun is in its exaltation, and that is consistent with our seasons. Um, what came first, the seasons or the zodiac? You tell me. But Leo is when we have the dog days of summer, which also involves the planet Sirius. And we have warmth, we have that extra just surge of life before the harvest begins. That's typically when people are going on vacation, before school begins, and again, we're starting to harvest things from our garden. But it's just hot, hot, warm, relaxing, beautiful. Everything is in its fruition. Everything that started growing in Aries and Taurus season has now completed its cycle, and so it's that's why the sun is in its exaltation in Leo. And to me, Robert Kennedy Jr. has Pluto in Leo here, um, which is, as you'll see, I'm going to delve into it a lot more, but you'll see this is a tremendous theme. This to me is transformational leadership, or someone that is going to lead us or could lead humanity, which is opposite of Leo up here. This is humanity, this is Aquarius. Um, with Pluto here, he is a powerful, almost prophetic, destined leader that will come to the forefront, that will shine forth. Leo is ruled by the heart. The heart, we literally have, okay, so the sun is in its favorite place in Leo, and Leo represents the heart. What do we have in the heart? We have literally gold. Same thing that's on the sun. The sun has gold. We have gold literally in our heart. We are connected to the sun by our heart. So he's not here to lead, to get money, or to build another corporatocracy, or to control things, or he is here to lead by the heart. He's here to inspire, which, Sophia, that was like all of your words where you started us out today. We're just like flowing from this place of inspiration and encouragement that you felt. And you felt the same thing in the room with everybody else, and everybody else was feeling
And
that. Just like
jogging.
this stir in your heart.
Yes.
He doesn't get people here. He doesn't move people here. He moves people here because he is real. And so literally you can see that in his chart. Pluto represents our secret power, and he has a secret power and a secret calling, to shine forth as a transformational leader in our time. So first off, he is born on a Sunday. He's born on the 17th, 7th of January, which is so cool. I love that so that makes him a Capricorn. This is his sun up here at 27 degrees, um, which I don't have the US's Pluto or the US's natal chart pulled up, but in the US's natal chart, you can see that Pluto is conjunct his natal sun. Really, really interesting.
Wow.
So where the place where Pluto was when the Declaration of Independence was signed at 5:01 p.m. in 1776 on July 4th in Philadelphia, not Washington D.C., his sun is on that same place in Capricorn. And that signifies Pluto in Capricorn is all about government, medicine, organized medicine, any institutions, any kind of corporations, religion, organized religion, and it's the father. Saturn is the granddaddy. He's the before Uranus and Pluto and Neptune were discovered, he was the limits of the solar system. He was like the Merlin character, or just holding his staff. You shall not pass until you do the work, until you have the discipline. You can't get any further than that. So he was the boundary, he was the restriction. And so we have restrictions, boundaries, hard lessons. Also, our ecliptic, the degree at which our ecliptic is I think it's 33 degrees, same as it lines up with Saturn. So
Can
we
I
have,
interrupt?
yes, please do.
I was just thinking about father figure boundaries, health, and then we see right now the falling apart of the boundaries where the genders are becoming fluid, and we have this very unhealthy situation where we have this confusion, this chaos, and this lack of understanding for self, orientation, lack of orientation, I would call it. Um, and it's also the lack of boundaries. And what do we have? We have a society. I'm a single mother. We have a society where the fathers are literally missing. And we also have a sense right now in our country of no leadership. We have a leader. That's what we see on TV. But we have a feeling, I'm sure I'm speaking for everybody, that we don't. And it's the same thing. It's like when the father's missing, we have a real problem. Like when the divine masculine is missing,
Right, right,
what that sets that boundaries. We have the feminine, the flowing feminine energy, that is the creative force. And then we have the boundaries that are like, without that, we cannot set a structure. Without structure, we can't put anything into a form.
right.
Nothing can be created. You only have creative energy, but just creative energy is chaos. You need
Swamp.
something
It's a
to put
swamp.
it. Oh, don't call the divine feminine a swamp.
No, 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 no. No, but the milieu
I'm
of like the
joking.
mixtures
Yeah.
and just we're all one. Ugh. Yeah.
Yeah. But it's true though that the divine feminine is chaotic without the divine masculine coming in it and like, okay, let's create a form, right? Let's put this into a form. And so you have both coming together and then you could actually create something, life, to say the least. Yeah.
Yes. Yes. Well, and then interesting with what you're saying, interesting and just beautiful and poetic and incredible to me. He's got all this energy up in Capricorn, and it looks like it's in Aquarius, but if you look at the little tings here, it's all in Capricorn, and the degrees to really denote that this
A lot of
is
stuff going off up
in
there on
Capricorn.
up there.
So we also, that's the thing. That's the thing that's like unmistakable about this is his north node, his north node, which is his soul's calling, which is like he can't keep himself out of this arena of life, is in Capricorn. His Venus, which is what he loves, what he's drawn to, what he values. That's, I mean, father, his family, his lineage. It's all there. It's all tucked in. His sun and Mercury. So he is he has this powerful stellium, which is three or more planets we call a stellium in astrology. He has four planets in Chiron here, and then he has Chi- uh, he has 4 planets in Capricorn here. And then Chiron, this little upside down key, he has at 22 degrees of Capricorn. I don't know what other combination would spell out a leader of this time other than this combination. He
Really?
literally has experienced he's experienced the opposite of structures and what makes sense and a corporatocracy that works. He has seen how the fatherhood, all of that has been not only removed from him, but bastardized, and leadership bastardized. So, in a way, he has witnessed this over and over again. And the way that we heal is to become a teacher and a mentor. So, he's observed how leaders have done us wrong and done his father and his uncle wrong and his, so much in his lineage. And he has the means to turn that around and teach and exude what leadership truly is
An
when you are
example,
leading when you're
right?
leading from the heart.
Yeah.
um, the other thing, okay, so we've got all this daddy energy, all this Capricorn energy, and he has his moon in Cancer. And the United States' natal chart is a Cancerian chart, so our sun is Cancerian. We are, um, and I think Chiron also is in Cancer in the United States chart. So we're wounded when it comes to our mothers, when it comes to our children, when it comes to feeding children, um, starving children, families, broken homes, broken families. That was the foundation on which they chose to elect the United States chart. They picked everything just as they wanted it to be. So there were no mistakes. Here, yeah, this is the United States birth chart. So we were Sagittarius rising, which has everything to do with Jupiter and um, laws, creation, stepping forth, teaching new ways of being done, of things being done, and freedom, 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 freedom is all Sagittarius. And then we have, here's our sun in Cancer, as well as Jupiter, which is exalted in Cancer. And we have our Venus and we have Mercury. Mercury is opposed to Pluto in Capricorn, and that's at 27 degrees. Again, that's where Robert Kennedy's sun is at 22 or at 27 degrees of Capricorn. So this was intentional. We have a really hard time speaking up about our needs when it comes to fighting against corporate structures, and they did this on purpose. I mean, they said that Pluto was not discovered until the 1900s this year or this century, but that's not true.
Who
There's
said that?
evidence
NASA?
they knew about it. They totally knew about it. Um, but we have here, look at our North Node. Our North Node is in Leo. Okay, this was our collective North Node to royalty, to leadership, to living from the heart, to being free, to living out the dog days of summer in our life, in our livelihood, in our lineage, in our families. That's what we were lined up to do. And then we have Saturn in Libra, which is actually Saturn loves to be in Libra, and it's at this prominent point in the
May
chart.
I, may I ask a question?
Yes, please do.
As somebody who doesn't understand much about astrology at all, are you saying that this chart that was set, or this chart was set at the birth time of what we now call the United States of America,
That's
and that
correct.
sets the tonality for what you're describing?
Correct.
So does this mean that this is set in? I mean, I'm asking silly questions maybe, but is this somehow set in stone?
Yes, it is.
Aesthetically?
Literally and figuratively.
So how do we deal with that? Well, this is another question. I'm sorry. This would divert from, we have to do part two probably, but
You
um,
know, right?
that's incredible. I had no idea.
Yes.
But
Yes.
so, which means they set this in stone to serve the purpose of what?
maybe see that's just it. There's a little good and there's a little bit of challenging in this. So they maybe set it up for their own purposes, but there's a benefic and a malefic side of everything, and they didn't account for the spirit that we have, the spirit of the human being.
Is
And go ahead.
is this an alignment with the Constitution? I don't know if this question makes sense.
This chart is based on the Declaration of Independence and when it was signed. So the Constitution, the Articles of Confederation, all of those took place at different times and locations. So there's a different chart to look up the Constitution, and there's a different chart to look up the Articles of Confederation.
Okay.
There's a chart for everything that happens and everyone that's born,
And there's
because
no coincidence. I mean, even right, even like January 6th. I mean, all of these dates are sacred, right? Yeah.
completely,
A lot of
completely,
people don't know that. Okay.
yes, yes. Um, the
No, that
other
was great.
thing, oh, I wanted to show, I thought this was so interesting. Um, this was his announcement.
Oh, right. That
Okay,
that was last Wednesday. Right. Yeah.
yes, yes. We went with 11:30 a.m.
That was
April
that's
19th
yeah.
last week. And I'm not sure that that was actually a mistake. Like, I think it was maybe he was planned to go on at 10, but there was something going on.
I can look up exactly what time it
They made
was.
it look like, something was going on, but um, I feel like, okay, just the significance of the Boston Tea Party took place in December 16th, 1773, I think it was, in Boston, Massachusetts, one of the first free colonies. And that's where he gave his speech, at the location where the Boston Tea Party took place, which was not, Boston was a free colony. It was not under the onus of the crown, and that's why they could rebel through the ports there and be like, "Oh, we don't want your tea." I just think it's so interesting. Plus, um, he, what is it? Pluto at the time of the Boston Tea Party massacre. Or, I'm sorry, I'm mixing things up. There's the Boston massacre and there's the Boston Tea Party.
Yeah, it started at
Uh,
11:45. I just looked it up. Yeah. So that's accurate.
okay,
Yeah.
okay. Um, so Pluto was right over his north node. It was at 24 degrees. At the time of the Boston Tea Party, Pluto was at 24 degrees of Capricorn, which is where his north node is in his chart.
Mm.
So his sun conjuncts the natal Pluto location of the US Declaration of Independence chart, and his north node conjuncts the location of Pluto during the Boston Massacre, the Boston Tea Party, and just there's no, I just think it's amazing that he gave his speech in Boston. I just like there's so much beautiful, and that his north node has that tie in with
It was
Pluto.
Patriots Day, right? Um,
Yes, that too.
yeah.
Yes. Okay, and the other significance astrologically of his speech, being given on the 19th, is that we had the second new moon of Aries season, which is pretty rare. We don't usually have two new moons in Aries season. Aries is the first sign of the zodiac. It's the beginning of the actual astrological new year. Used to be the actual calendar new year before Pope Gregory came along. Um, but since, wait a minute. Okay, but this year we had a new moon at the beginning of Aries season. I think it was around the fifth. Oh gosh, no, it was right around when Pluto went into Aquarius. So it was around the 23rd of March. Um, We had a new moon at the beginning of Aries season. We had a new moon at the very end of Aries season. And the sun was at this degree of, it was at the 29th degree of Aries, which is known as the anaretic degree. It's the Leo degree. It's very strong. It's very powerful. It has the capability to get a lot of attention. That's why they call it the Leo degree. So the fact that he gave his speech on the day that there was a new moon in Aries, but not just a new moon, it was a new moon eclipse because the sun and the moon came together just after his speech. The moon's over here on the other side of Jupiter, but the moon was moving this way over here to the sun, conjuncted the sun, and then the sun and the moon conjuncted the north node, which gives us an eclipse. So I don't think there's any mistaking that it was a powerful declaration of new things to come. We like I was saying, we entered this portal like we're crossing a bridge, and the bridge disintegrated behind us. There's no going back. So we crossed over something with him. His speech, his words, just the whole everything that was said before and after were part of this huge change. And I've no doubt that's what a lot of people were feeling. They were so moved because they could feel like this heaviness, these lies for centuries, all of this stuff that we brought to this moment, somehow it's gone.
Well,
And we're in a new place. We've
I
arrived
couldn't
at a new
believe.
place with a new, he's not like a leader that's commanding attention. That's what Leo does. It wants attention. But when you lead from the heart, you can't help but inspire and encourage others. And that is where he's coming from. And we haven't had a leader like that in a long time. So the significance of his speech being given on a new moon, a solar eclipse at the anaretic degree, the Leo degree, and his Pluto in Leo, signifying that he's here to instigate this huge transformation in leadership, in royalty, and how we look at royalty. Um, there's no coincidence. And it's not something to take lightly either, in my opinion. It's amazing. And that his North Node conjuncts the North Node in his chart conjuncts the natal United States chart for the Boston Tea Party, where Pluto was at that time. And Pluto is like the roto-rooter. Pluto is the great transformer, metamorphosizer, because Pluto is mythologically he traveled down into Hades and survived. The only other planet or character that could do that was Mercury. Um, but Pluto could literally go down there and rule and still come back up and change everything. So wherever Pluto goes, he's going to show the truth. He's going to bring out the truth. And in that process, we go through a transformation and nothing will ever, ever, ever be the same. So in addition to that, Pluto rules where the South Node is right now, where we talked about the swamp. Pluto rules the hidden things because only Pluto is willing to go down into the depths of hell, into the darkness, and retrieve the truth and bring it back and transform things. So it's like a roto-rooter. It's like a colonoscopy. Be ready to see things that are going to be revealed in a very truthful way. Things that have been hidden are going to be revealed. And Pluto is getting ready to go retrograde. It's at that first degree of Aquarius right now, but it's going to retrograde back into Capricorn. So for the next year or so, because I think it's January of next year that Pluto moves into Aquarius again permanently, or maybe it's March of next year. I don't know for sure, but I know it's next year, and I know Pluto's moving back into Capricorn in May of this year.
For anybody who's like, let's say that, like I'm a good example because I have no idea about planets. What can you how could you put this into a description of what that means in terms of what we like how to understand this, like translate this into something. I mean, I wish I understood more about astrology. I'm not there. Um, but like a different way to word this to understand what does this mean, like in simple terms. How would you be able to describe that in terms of how and what that signifies, what that means for him, and what we can understand? Um, like what could our takeaway be from this, and understanding how does this influence him? Um, um, I understand that like for me he literally represents, and what I how I experienced him, this natural born leader. But it's a natural, how do you say that, um, like a very natural authority. Like he has this, that just natural authority that you don't, he doesn't command authority. He owns it because of how he carries himself. And and so I'm I don't know how really to how to put this into words. I think I'm trying to better understand what this means, like in terms of him, and getting to get a better grasp on who he is. And um, I'm probably lacking the right question now. Um,
No, I'm understanding. I mean, there's so much information. I apologize if I threw too much at you with all of this.
no, no, I'm sure I'm probably one of those people who really need to like I don't understand enough about astrology. And I'm sure that anybody who's watching this, some will are like totally aligned with what you're saying, and others are probably more on my side of the like no clue side. um, and so that's why I find this so fascinating. And you were so humble at the beginning when you introduced yourself, because I know you so well. When you go into a topic, you become the expert. And you know, and I think that you with astrology and health, those are areas that I've just experienced so much depth in your understanding, because you deep dive, and then you deep dive, and then you deep dive, and then you're like, I want to understand that too. um, and so I think that you're so advanced in your understanding of the planets. um, you're like the iceberg, and I feel like I'm the tip.
Well, okay, let's look at it archetypally that his sun, his conscious awareness, and all of these like personal planets, as well as his soul's destiny. So what he values, Venus, the way he communicates, what he thinks about, what he analyzes, his style of communication, all of that, as well as Chiron, his soul wound, is all within the realm of corporate structures, government, and the father.
Mhm. Right.
And his unconscious awareness, like the moon, the way we talk about it, the moon in astrology is like um, people that know you behind closed doors. You're not you're not the same with people in your own home, in your own bedroom. You wouldn't take someone to your bedroom and see, you know, clothes on the floor or chill out and have a conversation. You wouldn't do that with just anyone. Only certain people know your moon. So it's who you are behind closed doors. It's how you know yourself. And it's you're not even objective about it. It's just like what you need. A lot of children, our own children, we know through their moon sign. We don't necessarily know them through their sun sign because they're not consciously aware of how they're projecting themselves. They're just these soft, gooey little sweet loving beings that are learning and bouncing up against barriers, and but they're not consciously choosing things yet. His moon Sun and moon are male and female, mother, father. So mother is down here. Actually, the moon rules Cancer. So she's exalted in Cancer, which means he had a really strong mother. He had a very, very strong tie to his mother. His mother was a huge part of it's in the third house here, so it had a huge part of his education, his ability to learn, to speak, to think, interacting with siblings because this is the house of Gemini. But also the moon in Cancer is where the sun is for the United States natal chart. Our sun, the way we consciously, as a collective country, project or how it was laid out to be in the chart, we were Cancerians. We are sacred divine, really. The moon in Cancer, the moon rules Cancer, and the moon in Cancer is the sacred feminine. So he has literally the father up here at the top of the chart, the mother down here. He has
Oh,
those archetypes in his chart. And the other thing, you mentioned Mariana Williamson and that name, as well as the fact that they're possibly working together or are working on the Democratic ticket. Um, in the days of the French Revolution, they sent in a team, a force of women, like a army of women that were called the Mariannes. They were the divine feminine warriors that went in to really get things done when they needed to get things done or clear things out or whatever they needed. They were really strong. They were a female force to be reckoned with.
well, the fact
Um,
that she's even running again after
yes.
like her the I call it the defeat. I was literally part of it. Is remarkable. But I wanted to say something about I think his mother's name is Ethel, and then he was talking a lot about his grandmother Rose, who brought them over from Ireland. Was it
Uh,
his grandmother? I think it was the mother or was it the grandmother of John Kennedy? I'm not even sure. Anyway, her name was Rose, and she brought them over from Ireland, and she infused them with this appreciation, this respect for, and this love for America, and she did everything with them to show them what a great country this is, and to make them fall in love with this country. And so that's basically how they. That was the starting point of this like this I guess this adoption, this like we're this is America is we're part of America now. This is our
wow.
home. Yeah. So I love the fact that her name is Rose, but I forgot if it's his grandmother or if it's the grandmother of John. I assume it's John's. I don't know. I don't want to assume anything. So anyway, it sounds like the female lineage is very strong, as well as the father lineage. I mean, are you kidding me? It's like it couldn't be more incredible.
Yes, yes. That and there's a lot of female energy just that he fights for the for mothers. You've expressed that. He's expressed that. It's his Mercury is at 28 degrees, which is a it's a Cancerian degree. So uh, he's very much powered up for fighting for the underdog that is the female essence. Um, it's it's one of the things that is returning in these times. It is, and it's not a desire by the people that are in power. They would prefer that that not be the case, but it's literally in his chart. His moon is exalted in Cancer. The moon loves being in Cancer. Uh, and then there's all these. I mean, I could show you some more, but this is very very powerful. So he's just got a really really super tender heart, and very protective of the home,
Mhm.
the feminine, what the feminine does for the children, and like I said, the birth chart for the United States is a Cancerian birth chart, so we are a Cancerian country. Um, that was made to protect the divine feminine. That's originally how it was set out.
Well,
But it's been inverted significantly. So,
but it's still very strong. I mean, I was I would I don't want to go too much depth with this, but after having spent so many years in Germany and experiencing the significance, the die Bedeutung, the significance for the divine feminine in Germany and here, there's a huge difference. The divine feminine, I would literally describe um, the divine feminine somehow in comparison is put on a silver platter. That's how I feel how the divine feminine is um, support, supported here, like or seen, or the ability of the divine feminine to blossom. Let's put it that way, or the female in general. Like I find that the women here naturally have a much stronger voice, are more self-confident, go after what they want, voice voice their opinions. They have a different kind of willpower. The ability to express themselves is much different than and I'm just comparing it to Germany, which is not negative, right? But the divine,
no.
the masculine is so strong there. And when you compare it here to the States, I feel like there's much more of a, I feel like it is much more of a balance. But even in legal, like the if you look at the law and how much power the mother has in court, might be in some cases, I mean, there's always a light and a dark side to the whole thing, but the mother has much more of it, plays a much bigger role in court, in the family courts than it does in Germany. Um, and
Really?
that's it. It's a real problem I find in Germany, because the mothers are not, they're not um, put in that kind of high regards as they are here. And I can just confirm that. Maybe this has nothing to do with that, but it's just something I've observed and I've experienced in Germany. And then you experience. Um, I haven't been in the court system here, but you hear stories and you know family and friends who are having experiences, and it's completely different here than over there. I just find that so remarkable, and I always admired being. I was like I left for Europe, and then I was always I commuted back and forth, and I was always in such admiration and respect for American women. I kind of like I looked up to American women, because I always had like my challenge in life was really having a small voice for myself and not knowing exactly how to speak up. And I was when I met American women, I'm like, God, they're so powerful, like Wonder Woman, so powerful. Something to learn from and take in. Like I need that, and I always felt I need to come to the States to fully come into my own power. It's so interesting. I knew that I would in Europe I would not be able to step into my own potential the way I would when I'm here. And I always when I commuted, I literally my energy level went up, like my self empowerment went up, and it took and I measured this took 2 weeks in Germany for it to go down, and then I was down to where like the level of disempowerment compared to what I felt here. It's almost like I felt carried, and I don't know by what, but just like I have a automatically, it's almost like I have this different status from which I can act upon, from which I'm perceived, received, heard, appreciated, and respected. That I'm like, wow, it's empowering, and I think that it's hard to appreciate that as an American woman because it is the way it is. You don't have a comparison, but I had such a strong comparison because I commuted for decades. Um,
Wow.
so now being here is I'm like whoa, but now I'm confronted with all of the U.S., the whole energy field. I'm not commuting anymore, so I'm planted in this energy, and I'm having to calibrate. It's powerful
Mm.
energies over here.
Wow.
Yeah, a lot of self like the but that's a different topic. I'm going way off topic. I was just thinking about the divine feminine.
Well, see, but we were just talking about those degrees, so it just brought up, organically that topic in the conversation. Um, that is the energy on which the United States was founded. There's no mistake about it. There's no coincidence. I don't have our birth chart, do I? Yes, I do. Oh, yeah, I keep forgetting. Um, because I've looked in the past couple days, I've looked at the chart of the United States, of Washington, D.C., of um, the White House. There's so many different charts to look at, and for every event, there's a chart. For every birth, there's a chart.
Wouldn't it be interesting to
um,
look at like the meridians, like Robert's ley lines? You know what I mean? Um,
yes,
that's
yes.
something that we could
The
absolutely
the
look at.
astrolocation.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes,
Couldn't think of the
which
word.
I'm guessing he. That's another interesting thing to look at. So you can look up every single US president and their astrolocation has to have some sort of line through DC or they would not have been elected.
Yeah, I think
Their,
Trump does. I
their
think
chart
I looked
has
at.
their
Yeah.
chart has to interact or overlap with the location of Washington DC and the White House or else they wouldn't they wouldn't do it. I think um, President Trump's was Mars, his Mars line, which
Yeah,
makes
right.
like
I
why I
think
was
we should
so
see the
fired up and
president.
like
Yeah,
just taking action all the time, just doing battle. um,
he definitely is an action taker.
I think Obama's was his moon line, which is very like elusive and mysterious and mercurial, which is pretty much on point, I think. But yeah, I don't want to mess up my screen with the internet right now, and I don't want to
Okay.
pull up that
Yeah.
chart, but we can look at his astrolocation simply because he has all of this Sun, Mercury, Venus. These are two really, really powerful energies. Like North Node and Chiron are somewhat um, even more important than like the personal planets because your soul calling is why you came here. Like before you came into this incarnation, you purportedly were working with your spirit team on like what you wanted to do based on your past lives. So our North Node says so much about why we are here. It's not your career necessarily. It's not just what you do, what you like. It is your soul. It's what your soul came here to do. And Chiron is like your soul's wound. And healing that wound empowers you to become the teacher and spread this like vibration of love that is not possible unless you heal that core wound, unless you do that healing, which Capricorn, Capricorn is all about organized medicine. He's had a lot of interaction with organized medicine and vaccinations and vaccines and all of that, and that's a big part of his. Not even his like his stance or his ticket. It's his passion. It's literally like they are 2 degrees
But
away from each other, which
you
makes
know
them
what?
conjunct.
You know
So
what he
his
said? You know what he said about how he even came about looking into vaccines? He said he was reluctant. He's like, I'm happy to protect Freshers, the lakes, the river, the Hudson. I'm good, environment, nature. I'm good. Like, let's. He said, a mother came to his house.
all
She had
right.
one court case, 20 million. Her child was injured. I'm saying this because of the feminine. A mother
That's
planted herself on his doorstep with papers, a stack of papers, and said, "Before you read this, I'm not going away." And he said he was like he was literally pointed towards this information of vaccines because he was always pro-vaccine. His kids are vaccinated. He never ever this was not a topic for him.
right.
He was so why I'm saying that is just because of we're looking at the feminine, the divine feminine here, and the mother plants herself on his doorstep and is like,
That's
can you look at these documents because I'm not going to leave your doorstep if you don't read these documents. And he said, thank God I'm a scientist at heart because I know how to read scientific and medical information, so it all ties into the feminine, health, medicine, It's
Yes.
incredible. That's
Yes.
how he said that's how he was pointed in this direction. He would have never gone there by himself. So it's not like he chose that area, but it was meant to happen. But the divine feminine, the mother, brought the information to him. Is that
Yes.
incredible?
And it's like his lineage here, that he was born into this lineage. His North Node, Chiron, wounds of losing the father to the corporate, or just all the unruly things that the corporate structures and the government structures and religion. He's Irish Catholic, which, if you've met an Irish Catholic, they're very particular. They do not want to be curtailed in with the Roman Catholic Church at all. They are different. um, he's literally, I mean, oh, and what you were just talking about with the woman on his doorstep. That's what I was saying with his Mercury, the 28th degree. So every degree relates back to a zodiac sign. The 29th degree is Leo, the 28th degree is Cancer. So he very much is passionate about, or just comfortable speaking out about the injured, about the underdog, and which is the female, that no other part of society has been more abused, subverted. It's the whole institution of motherhood.
And the children, what is this center called for? Doesn't he have a like the his I forgot again, his institute, his foundation for children, health and children. I forgot the name. I'm sorry.
I don't know much about that. I'll look into that for
That's
sure.
one area I have researched anything on as well, but I keep on hearing it everywhere. And I was just pointed towards that. There's a woman that somebody wants to connect me to who was working for him in the on like um, has some important position in his foundation. But it's about children and health and obviously parents, I guess, mothers. I'm not sure.
And that says, it just reflects a lot about his super stellium up here, his quantum stellium, I'm going to call it, and just setting up, yeah, this something that's close to his heart, that serves, that protects, and nurtures the children, the mother. It's very, very close to his heart. And then here's where I was saying, this is Uranus. This is the ruler of Aquarius. Okay, Uranus is down here in Cancer at the 20th degree. 20th degree is a Scorpio degree, and Scorpio indicates death. So this is where I see his uncle. And also in terms of Cancer, I haven't looked up. No, I have. I have. Because there's a really interesting tie-in with John Kennedy, and the Aquarius age. Um, and so Uranus is the ruler of Aquarius. John Kennedy also was a lover of mothers, the feminine, the divine feminine, bringing that back, coming back to the gold standard, all of that. Um, but you can see someone like an uncle or a grandfather that was killed. So, and this is a really rough place. The third house. This is like when we're really young, when we're little, and he witnessed the loss of
He was, I think,
someone,
10 with John, and then with his father, he was 14, I think.
and his father. I thought, yeah, father. How old was he when his father died?
14.
14. The number 8 here with Saturn. This is the glyph for Saturn. So Saturn is here in the 6th house, and it is in Scorpio. And 8 is the Scorpionic degree. So the father was also taken out. Also, this line that bisects, or dissects the circle in half. This is the ascendant. This is the descendant on this side. and they say that um, this is like the horizon, or this is where the sun is coming up, and this is where the sun is setting.
I was just thinking
So
the Scorpio and Tarot, isn't it isn't it represented with the Death card? The in Tarot, the Scorpio, the I think it's a major arcana is the Death card too. I don't just thought of that.
I think you're right. No, I think you're right, because Scorpio is all about death,
Death and
transformation,
birth. Yep.
alchemy.
Yeah.
But the fact that Saturn here didn't make it into its favorite house, the seventh house, it's just below the horizon. It's at the eighth degree, which is the scorpionic degree in Scorpio. Um, just owie, ouchie, really tough loss, tough lesson. Scorpio is all about losing, about death, about the hidden things, the hidden realms. So um, that I see his father here, and I see his uncle here, both at the scorpionic degree. Um, and then also receiving these tough angles from the moon and Uranus, which we can go into that another time. But
Yeah, there's so much to talk about. I wanted to ask you, have you ever done a chart on Trump?
I have, I
Yeah.
have, yeah. Yes, I've looked a lot. I've looked at his astrocartography. I've looked at his chart. That's another mysterious, somewhat mysterious, Biden as well. There's certain people. Trump is one, Biden, and and now Robert F. Kennedy Jr. And there are others that have they don't provide a birth time. It's like, what are you trying to hide? What kind of power is there that you're trying to hide? Um, it's kind of weird because there's two different birth times out there for Donald Trump.
Well,
Um,
I tested Robert F. Kennedy Jr.'s birthday, and it for me it's like energetically, and it seems correct. Then I tested the time, and I have this feeling, but I haven't tested it yet. This is just my intuitive feeling that the birth time of Donald Trump is not correct. Not birth
yeah,
time, birthday.
yeah,
So I would have to test that, but I yeah, weird that two times are out there, but I mean, there's so much distortion. It's you really you have to go with intuition, and you have to be able to you need different methods, and where now all these old methods are coming back, and we have a lot of people who are rediscovering, like you, like astrology, tarot card reading, all these esoteric in its meaning, just it inherently means old wisdom, old knowledge.
yes,
So
yes.
it's been made fun of. It's awesome, right? You take something, you claim something, and you shield it, and then on the outside you're like, oh, this is woo woo stuff. Don't be ridiculous.
Right, right. And to some extent, I think the good guys were trying to shield it from the bad guys, and the bad guys were just trying to hide it from everybody. They don't want anyone to have it. But the other kind of unique similarity between Trump and John F. Kennedy Jr. is Trump was born on an eclipse, and
Robert,
Kennedy
yeah.
Robert F. Kennedy Jr. was born just before an eclipse, because anytime you have the sun or the moon close to the north node,
Mhm.
you're going to have an eclipse. So not just an eclipse, but a full moon eclipse, which is what we're coming up on the 5th of May,
Mhm.
is another full moon lunar eclipse.
Is it possible to read into like a next significant date or something that you can see in his chart?
I can, not on this program. I need to have a fancy astrology program. I mean, I could open up another window and look at what that will look like on his chart. Um, but even here, oh wow. Yeah, the lunar eclipse then is going to take place here in his chart. So I think it's at 13 degrees. I think that's where it's taking place in Scorpio. So it's right between his Saturn and his Mars. um, which is pretty significant. It's pretty stirring, pretty
What does that mean?
coincidental. But
What?
just interesting, like he was born out of a portal, essentially. He was born out of this portal of transformation. So an eclipse is not going back, we can't go back. So he was born out of this energy of like striking new energy between the father and the mother. That that's incredible. And that he gave his speech on a lunar or on a solar eclipse. So again, and the sun and the moon were together. They were not opposing. When they're opposing, you get the full moon. When they're together, you get a new moon. So his announcement came at a beginning, where he was born at this tremendous release and this new beginning, this eclipse of the powerful ending of something, a powerful beginning of something, and that's exactly the energy in which he gave his speech. Powerful closure of a big door, and then we're looking at a possibility that lays before us. It's what he was born into. He's got that dichotomy of the father and the mother so prominent, so juicy and beautiful, and we've got that in the United States chart. And then we are now moving into our Pluto return. As Pluto moves into the first degrees of Aquarius, it's like I said, it's going to go back into Capricorn. But we're moving into our Pluto return. In addition to that, next year we start our Chiron return in Aries. And this whole energy in which he gave his speech was all around Chiron and Aries, around our individual freedom and our individual sovereignty and our ability to move forward with our own 2 feet planted on the ground. That's what he's coming into this with. And then the other powerful thing, the other big piece is the United States chart has Neptune. Neptune is the ruler of Pisces. Neptune was right at the top in Virgo, which is that's a whole different story, and it's to me very deceptive. Virgo is about work and about detail, day-to-day responsibilities, but in the ancient times, um, it's modeled after the virgins that were the keepers of the flame and the keepers of the ancient esoteric knowledge. And they were the record keepers. They kept all of the records of Rome. And they were the virgins. And virgin at that time did not mean someone that had not had such sexual intercourse. It was someone that could not be bought. They were so high up in the spiritual echelon and so high up in religious, not religious, but spiritual rights. They got to choose who they shared that sexual energy with, and they were protected, they were revered, they were very, 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 very special. And here we have this illusion. So we have Neptune in Virgo. The reason I bring this up is because right now we have Neptune all the way at the opposite down here in Pisces. And so we have what's called a Neptune opposition. And what this is bringing is an exposure of bacteria, viruses, vaccines, a whole exposure of just the uh, petroleum and how it's used and where it's used,
Toxins. Okay. Yeah.
and the petrodollar, the illusion of the petrodollar. All of that is coming into view and coming to the fore. So as we're moving into the next year and this next election, these are all the things that are on the table. And we have this amazing leader again who is not leading from the top down, even though he knows how to do that. Capricorn is all about structure and authority from the top down. When we move into Aquarius, it moves into the people. It's about the people holding the truth, holding the information. Pluto moving into Aquarius is truly signaling that the power is returning to the people. We don't need a leader that is going to rule from the top down. He knows leadership only comes from the heart. You can only lead people by inspiring and encouraging. So it's a transformational time of leadership, and he understands that. To me, it's in his chart.
Wow.
It's what he came here to do. So we have this Chiron return in Aries, matching up with the day that he gave his speech. We have Jupiter, the sun, the moon, Chiron, and all these fancy asteroids all around, gathered around the moment of his speech, which was, again, a new moon solar eclipse, with his sun conjunct the natal Pluto of the United States. He's here to bring transformation. He's here to be a leader. He's aligned. He's aligned with the energy and the archetypes of the United States. It's in his chart. It's in his moon.
Why
He
don't we
loves this country. He really does.
and like if you stop sharing the screen, and then I would say like let's maybe come to an end, because I know that you're leaving, and I want to be mindful of your time because we've already been like talking for 2 hours, and I'm sure you have to leave, and I don't want you to feel conscious about
Fun.
having to go.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes. Um,
Yes.
so
Wonderful.
um, I would love to invite you tonight because we're meeting, talking about Robert, but it has nothing to do with this thing. I think I'm going to record it, and so I'll share it with you if you can participate, listen in, or I'll send you the Zoom link. But um, yeah, so I'm so. Do you have anything like? Do you have anything you want to say about? Shall we do part two? We could think about it, like everything sacred geometry, maybe. Um,
Sure.
yeah.
Yeah.
I'm also interested about his um, like the geological, what is it called, the
The
um,
astrolocation. Yes.
astrolocation. That would be fun. And then
Yes, it
also
would.
looking at does that, what if, I mean, does it go through Washington D.C. or maybe not? Because a lot of people are like, what, moving forward, everything was like we can expect the unexpected. That's basically how I see his whole campaign. I wanted to hold something up
But
too.
see, that's what I was trying to explain in my many too many words. But with all those planets there, this Chiron, the North Node, Venus, Sun, um, Mercury, those are all going to be running through DC. He's got 5 lines, Sophia, at least 5. Those are just like
What does that
looking
mean?
at the basic. He's got 5 lines in DC because he was born there. That's another thing I wanted to say. He was
Oh,
freaking
great.
born in the swamp. He's there to drain the swamp. He was born there. I just think it's so incredible. Like,
So here, look at this. Look at this. Here, I wanted to show this.
ah, yes.
This was his tagline, and I was looking at it, and I'm like, I couldn't even process it for a while, and I'm like, heal the
Wow.
divide, divide, divide. That's our problem right now. It's the divide. We have that divide within us, and it's like
Yeah.
that's his tagline for his campaign is heal the divide. How beautiful.
That's in his chart too. He's got father at the top, mother at the bottom, and Mars and Saturn over at the
Father,
side, almost
mother,
like a
father,
grand
mother,
cross.
father, mother.
Yes, like literally
Divide,
healing the
father,
divide.
mother. It's like it's yin and yang. It's balance.
Yes.
What is
This,
health? What is health? Health is um, when we're healthy, our system, like in nature, is in balance. Balance is perfect yin yang
yes,
um, relationship.
yes,
Relationship. Huh. Wow.
yeah. So
I
I'm
think
not here to say, um, uh,
no, this is not like suggesting anything political.
no,
This is
no,
just about um, understanding.
yes,
And
yes.
what you said, we heal by becoming a mentor or by being a mentor. What did you say at the beginning?
We all come in with a wound. We all have Chiron in our chart somewhere. We all have this mortal soul wound that feels like, oh, I know I could never do that. I'll never. No, 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 no. But where you heal, you become a mentor. The other side, the other. The unhealed part is the wound. When it's healed, you become a teacher and a natural mentor. You carry the vibration of the healing to others. You carry it in your frequency, in your words, and everything you do.
So
So,
interesting that I would pick that word too for.
yes, yes, it is. It is.
It's pulling us into our healed, our state of healing,
Yeah.
right? Okay, I know you have to go.
I
I'm
just
gonna, yeah.
I just want to say that Pluto in its little ingress into Aquarius, there's a dark side, and we may see some of that. But the real daddy of the dark, the real daddy of the dark forces. I don't want to even give a name to it because it gives them power, you know. Um, and now I just kind of forgot my thought.
I know
uh,
a lot of stuff flying around.
oh, Saturn moved into Pisces back in March. Saturn is the ruler of Capricorn and Aquarius. Saturn is in its domicile in either of those signs, but it just moved into Pisces. It does not have any power. There is nothing to fear. The worst is over with. And they're going to try and create images or things to make it look this way or that, but truly the worst is behind us. It really, really is.
I think that's a
So
really, really powerful end statement.
good. Yeah. Like embrace joy, follow your curiosity and your bliss, and know that
Focus on what
glory,
you want.
glory, hallelujah is for all of us.
Yeah.
So
Thank you, Lynn.
thank you,
Can't wait
Sophia.
for part two.
Yes, me too.
Okay.
So if anyone's watching this has questions, feel free to send us questions. And
Yeah, your contact information I'm going to put below, and then anybody can contact you with questions. So astrology, and what else?
oh gosh, so much. Uh,
Conflict.
uh, natural health and
Yes. Naturopathy.
foraging and wild medicines.
Yes. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Bye.
Ciao, Bella. Bye.